When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
Yes, viewers all over the world, here comes your brother, your son, and your friend in the Lord, Wise Man Daniel. Here we are at the Elohim Global TV studio. Of course, a newborn baby, but mighty in the spirit. And here we are for the purpose of the interactive prayer session. And I believe viewers all over the world, you are connected from different parts of the world. Before I go into the activity for today, being the interactive prayer session, for the last Wednesday of this month of June, this year 2024, permit me to make reference to the prophecies that were released in the course of the crossover candlelight service into this year 2024. There was a prophecy released about youth all over the world, telling teachers, leaders, parents to be careful of youth because of the kind of spirit that has possessed them. You can see what is going on in my country, Kenya. Because we, Africa, have to unite. Violence against youth, especially youths of this age, will rather complicate issues than helping matters. Sitting on the round table with dialogue is the way out. We leaders wouldn't sit on that seat or those seats of leadership without the consent of the youths. Remember, they are the leaders of tomorrow. Please, Kenyans, please, leaders of Kenya, precisely our dear brother, President, please, temper justice with mercy. Remember, no condition is permanent. You were once a civilian, now a leader, through democracy. These are the people that usher you into power. Violence against them is not the solution. I want to assure you, God reveals to redeem. Dialogue is the way out. The kind of spirit that possesses the youth is the kind of spirit that can stand before gun, whatever firearm, to decide what they want. Killing, shooting, violence against them can never make peace sit or rest. Rather, it will aggravate and complicate issues because they are ready to die for the cause of justice. So therefore, please, temper justice with mercy. Nobody knows tomorrow. No condition is permanent. We are praying for our brothers and sisters and our nation, Kenya, for peace to reign. And I know God will touch the hearts of youth to take it easy with the president as well, because he's a human being. Nobody's above mistakes. And mistakes are correctable as soon as possible. As soon as possible. As soon as possible. We are praying for Kenya as a nation. The prophecy is there, but I thank God that God is working out the answer, slowly but surely.
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
Number 9, the side effect of education. I remember in 50s, 60s, if you're a student, you know what it means. You value education, you're ready to die for this, ready to do this, ready to do that. But today, the reverse is the case. So that teachers will be careful in the class. There's a wind of spirits flowing in the lives of students. This 2024. So teachers, lecturers, be very careful. Be very careful this year. Be very careful. Modern education will no longer be business as usual because the system is creating more agitation, anger, and provocation in the heart of youths all over the world. I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything. At the end, this will affect many nations. Let us pray for our youth and the education system in our countries all over the world.
For years, when it comes to protests in Kenya, this has usually been the face. Kenya has seen numerous protests, including the high cost of living demonstrations in 2023 and the 2017 anti-IEBC demonstrations.
In the latest protest in the capital, it's the younger generation taking to the streets, a sight never seen before.
Is this a moment in Kenya's protest history, or is it too early to say? Mike Mushiri, a content creator and a social media influencer, sees this as a transformative moment.
I think this is going to go down in history, in Kenyan history, as a time when young people really showed up for a protest.
But why are Mike and others like him out here and not elsewhere?
The new finance bill puts forward tough tax policies. It adds a 16% tax on special medical gear and new taxes on crucial products like pads, phones, and computers. For many young people, they see the changes directly affect them, giving them reason to demonstrate against the bill.
Reject finance bill! I am honestly tired of decisions being made on behalf of us that do not benefit us.
One of the things that did strike home close to home is the fact that they wanted to increase taxes on cancer treatment. Personally, I think I have had a relative or someone close to me just undergo through their treatment, and it's not cheap.
I caught up with some young protesters on the streets of Nairobi.
Who's leading you as Gen Z with this protest? Who's leading this?
I don't think there's a specific leader. We are doing it scared, we are doing it tired, but we are doing it regardless. And let me tell you, this will have an impact in the future, and that's what we're here for.
How are you mobilizing? How did you find out about the protests?
Online. I am a food influencer, and so every information is online. There was also a USSD code in case you do not know where you need to be or who you need to be with. And I love the fact that the organizers have put in place contacts and every detail that you will need to make this protest successful.
The protest in Kenya is not the first youth-led movement. From climate strikes inspired by Greta Thunberg to the End SARS movement in Nigeria. Here in Kenya, it's government financial policy that is bringing people out.
It's not that we do not want to pay tax. We are just uncomfortable with every time it's a tax hike, every year it's something different, and unfortunately we don't actually get to see where the money is going.
Some government officials like Isaac Mwaura claim the protests are politically motivated. The government has dropped some of the controversial clauses that were unpopular and likely to raise the cost of living. They include a 2.5% motor vehicle tax and a 10% to 20% increase in mobile money transfer fees, which protesters argued would directly impact their daily lives and financial well-being.
So is this a fleeting moment or the start of a sustained movement?
It's a continuous thing because we were here on Tuesday, we're here now again. So unless the policies are changing, unless they actually see what we're saying and why we're on the streets, it will keep on coming, yeah?
Gen Z like accountability. Oh, yeah. You promised us this and you're not delivering. Why? We need to hold you accountable. So it is definitely not a fleeting moment. Once we're done with this, definitely talking about recalling MPs, and yeah, let's see how that's gonna go.
I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything. At the end, this will affect many nations. Let us pray for our youth and the education system in our countries all over the world.
Our lives are tough. People are struggling. People don't have places to stay. People don't have meals to eat. Families, fathers can't put food on their table. We need change in this country, and this finance bill is not going to bring that change. We don't want to carry debt. We want to change this. We want to change this country. We want you as the government to be accountable. We have started with the president. We want you to be accountable for the finance bill. We want the governors to be accountable for the things that they're telling us, for these promises that they're making, that they're breaking, because they're breaking families. People are struggling.
I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything. At the end, this will affect many nations. Let us pray for our youth and the education system in our countries all over the world.
We're going to start with that breaking news out of Nairobi for you. Kenya's president has just addressed the nation, informing the country that he will not sign the 2024 finance bill, which was at the heart of Tuesday's deadly and chaotic protests in Nairobi. Have a listen.
Consequently, having reflected on the continuing conversation around the content of the Finance Bill 2024 and listening keenly to the people of Kenya who have said loudly that they want nothing to do with this Finance Bill 2024, I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 Finance Bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn. And I have agreed with these members that that becomes our collective position.
Well, the comments come less than 24 hours after President William Ruto denounced the protesters as, quote, treasonous. At least 5 people were killed by police during those demonstrations on Tuesday. CNN's Larry Madowo has been right in the centre of these protests. He's live in Nairobi for us now. What do you make of what you have just heard in the last, 10, 15 minutes from President Ruto?
It's not clear what changed between President William Ruto's national address last night and this afternoon, because yesterday he was defiant. He said there were legitimate protesters, but that legitimate protesters had been infiltrated by treasonous criminals, which did not go down well with many Kenyans. And less than 24 hours later, he comes back and says the people have spoken, they need to make more concessions, and therefore he is rejecting his own finance bill that was proposed by the executive that he is the head of, and that he thanked all the MPs around him. The people sitting around him are members of his own ruling party who defied the feelings of the people and went ahead and passed this finance bill while people were actively demonstrating against the bill outside Parliament. While people were getting killed outside Parliament, they went ahead and passed this bill and put it on the floor and put it on the seat of President William Ruto. And now he's saying, oh, you were right, and we will not be signing this bill. So there's already some defiance on social media, and people say it's too little too late, and some of them even threatening to still go ahead with the planned protests tomorrow. So that is the instant reaction and the feeling from people who feel that all of this could have been avoided. The people who died yesterday could have been saved if President Ruto on Sunday, like he said, would engage the young people, had made this move, Becky.
I was interested to hear a couple of things that he said. He said, it has become evident that the public demands more concessions. And because I run a government, but I also lead the people and the people have spoken, he said, I concede and therefore I'll not sign this bill. He went on to say the following: as a nation, we need to look to the future. As we have gotten rid of this bill, we now need a conversation as a nation about how we manage the affairs of the country together, manage the budget together. And at the beginning of this, he was alluding to the fact that he'd pulled the nation from the brink of debt, and how the nation sort of manages itself going forward. How would you expect that he effects that engagement now with what he described as the young people of Kenya?
So one of the immediate problems is going to be finding the leaders of this so-called movement, because none of the Gen Z generation that have been at the forefront of these protests wants to be identified as the leader, as the organizer of these protests. So that's one. But two, the background he started with his press conference is completely the right tone, because yes, Kenya has a debt problem, which he inherited from his predecessor, but he was number 2 in that government of Uhuru Kenyatta. He said that just last week, Kenya cleared the $2 billion Eurobond that's been hanging over the heads of the country. And so that's why he's pulled the country from the brink of debt distress. So that's also accurate. They were trying to raise about $2.6 billion through these extra tax measures in the finance bill. After public outcry, they cut it down to about $1.5 billion, and now that's been scrapped entirely. So he's got to find a different way to explain this to the people of Kenya, to talk to the people of Kenya, not talk at them. So far, in the entire public engagement process, President Ruto has not done what he's done this afternoon. Explain systematically, slowly, what he's trying to do and why he's going to do it this way, and find a way around it. And now it's come a little too late in the game, and it's going to be a much difficult conversation to convince anyone after the events of the past few weeks, and especially the events of the past day.
Yeah, and we spoke just after the speech, and we talked about whether this is any longer about the finance bill or whether it has gone further than that. And there will be people who say that it is no longer about the finance bill. It is about whether they want President Ruto to run the country. More on that as we get to it. Larry, for the time being, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
It is embarrassing to me as Deputy President that it has taken protests, deaths, mayhem, destruction for the President to know the truth. Yet there is an organization charged with that responsibility. I have publicly stated that under this administration, Kenyans are free to criticize the government without fear of reprisal and state agencies. This was a promise made by both the President and I when we were sworn in. I want to call upon overzealous heads of security agencies not to be tempted to use the criminal justice system to manage politics. Let us manage politics the conventional way, through reaching out, consensus, and concurrence. I am informed that members of parliament who voted no have already been targeted by the National Intelligence Service for harassment for their political stand. This is a promise the President and I gave to the people of Kenya, that never again shall we use the criminal justice system to manage politics. I want to say that the President and I gave a categorical promise to the people of Kenya that the issue of abductions and extrajudicial killings will never happen again. Sadly, this is back. It is unbelievable that the son of the Honorable Attorney General of Kenya, Justin Bidan Muturi, was abducted at night in a commando style by officers of the National Intelligence Service and held incommunicado for 18 hours. Yet, that is the Honorable Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. What will happen to other Kenyans? I want to ask our law enforcement agencies to dignify the President and I before the people of Kenya and not backtrack on the promises we made to the people of Kenya, that we shall never again use the criminal justice system to manage politics. Yesterday, Nurdin Haji was trying to put up a team together to craft lies and propaganda and attribute the chaos that were in the country to leaders, I included, former President Uhuru Kenyatta and others. Yet it is very clear, and the President has admitted, that these protests were caused by the anger of the people of Kenya and their refusal of Finance Bill 2024. I want to call on the National Intelligence Service not to take us back to the dark old days of the Nyayo era, where you create propaganda and schemes to undermine leaders and those you don't agree with. I want to say in conclusion, this is a time for reflection and action. And we need to take immediate steps, as the President has guided, and I'm very happy, to engage the Generation Z. And I want to call that generation to tell us whom to engage, because they are leaderless, they are tribeless, they have no organizational structure, but we would like to engage the right people. There could be a temptation among some young people around us in government to pick some friends of theirs and attempt to bring them for discussion. So I want to challenge our young people and salute them for their courage and conviction and the love for their motherland to come up with a structure on how they can engage government in accordance with what President William Ruto has guided this afternoon. In view of the very wise decision by the President, in conformity with the wishes of the Kenyan people, to withdraw Finance Bill 2024 that was in contention, as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and a patriotic son of this country, I want to appeal to Generation Z to call off the protests for tomorrow, because their cry has been heard by the President. The President has accepted that there was an issue, there was a disconnect, and the President has done the right thing. And I think it's only fair that we call off the protest so that we don't have further loss of lives and destruction of property. It's an appeal that I've made as a father, as a parent, to our young children. We love you, we respect you. Please, I beseech you as your father, now that the President has given in and accepted to go with the wishes of the Kenyan people, please, my sons and daughters, I plead with you to save lives, to save bloodshed, to save loss of property and lives. My sons, my daughters, please make an announcement this evening and call off the protest. And then we can begin the process of truthful engagement with the Kenyan people. We can begin an honest conversation on how to work on our country. Finally, I want to ask the President and our government to consider a plan on how to help those families that lost their livelihoods as a result of lack of proper advice by the National Intelligence Service. All these things happened because of government failure. It should never happen. Let us see how to compensate to those families, those who are dead. We help those who are in hospital with bills, and we help to bury them. Again, I want to ask Kenyans not to punish members of parliament for the stand that they took. A government is formed by a political party. Once a government has a program in parliament and decides it is good for the people, members of parliament from that party must toe the line. I don't want you to punish our members of parliament. They just did what is right in terms of our political formation. Allow them to be. Allow them to support their government, because that's why they were elected as members of the government party. Let us not harass them. Let us not abuse them. Let us not attack their properties. They were just doing what the government wanted. And now that the government has decided to do the right thing, I think we should close that chapter. And if you have a problem with your member of parliament over this matter or any other matter, you will have an opportunity at the right time to punish that member of parliament or affirm he or her by re-electing him or her. And if we do that, it will be good for this country. Finally, I also want to ask the president to consider the issues of the demolitions of houses along Nairobi River. Houses that had approved building plans, built on land with title deed, were demolished, and only a compensation of 10,000 was given, which is unacceptable and unfair. Let us consider any landowner who had a genuine title, who had constructed a house that had been approved by the city authorities for compensation, because it's good to be fair. I really want to thank you and ask the people of Kenya to keep peace and to love one another. Now that this matter of Finance Bill 2024 has been settled, let us all go back to work. Let us be peaceful. Let us not be violent. Let us not talk at each other. Let's try to love one another. We have a beautiful country. We have no other country to run to. Let us not burn our country because of disagreements on issues. And I know as long as we keep on talking to each other, this country is going to places. As Deputy President and Principal Assistant to President William Ruto, again, I want to affirm to the people of Kenya that I will continue helping the President to discharge his duties in the management of the affairs of this country. I'll continue giving him proper and sound advice based on honesty and truth, because I'm the only Kenyan who took the Bible in Kasarani and swore before God and before man to advise President William Ruto. Many people have been very unhappy with me for saying things that are truthful, to a point of trying to isolate me because they didn't want me to say the truth. But I'll keep on saying the truth. I'll keep on being truthful and honest, because that is what the people of Kenya expect me to do. Thank you very much, and good evening. Asanteni sana. Tumeshukuru sana. Thank you.
Elohim, mighty God lives in us. God does nothing without revealing the events to come, how it will come, and the consequences of the coming events to his elect or to his favorites, who are his intercessors, his mediators, or his representatives between the visible world and the invisible world. Remember, nothing out of God's control will happen on this earth or to his elects without divine revelation from the celestial corridor, through the mouth of his servants by grace who are living here on earth. According to God's master plan for his children, Wiseman Daniel, through his mentor, Senior Prophet T.B. Joshua of the blessed memory, has been given the grace by God Almighty to see the events of tomorrow from the celestial corridor. If you could remember, people of God, that on the 31st of December 2023, God used our brother, our son, and our friend in the Lord, Wiseman Daniel, to prophesy about the events of now regarding the educational system within Nigeria, Africa, and the entire world. Now we are seeing the smoke. The real fire is still coming. Students be warned. Teachers be warned. Lecturers be warned. That is why God said this before it starts to unfold. These were his words.
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
Number 9, the side effect of education. I remember in 50s, 60s, if you're a student, you know what it means. You value education, you're ready to die for this, ready to do this, ready to do that. But today, the reverse is the case. So that teachers will be careful in the class. There's a wind of spirits flowing in the lives of students. This 2024. So teachers, lecturers, be very careful. Be very careful this year. Be very careful. Modern education will no longer be business as usual because the system is creating more agitation, anger, and provocation in the heart of youths all over the world. I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything. At the end, this will affect many nations. Let us pray for our youth and the education system in our countries all over the world.
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
Number 9, the side effect of education. I remember in 50s, 60s, if you're a student, you know what it means. You value education, you're ready to die for this, ready to do this, ready to do that. But today, the reverse is the case. So that teachers will be careful in the class. There's a wind of spirits flowing in the lives of students. This 2024. So teachers, lecturers, be very careful. Be very careful this year. Be very careful. Modern education will no longer be business as usual because the system is creating more agitation, anger, and provocation in the heart of youths all over the world. I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything. At the end, this will affect many nations. Let us pray for our youth and the education system in our countries all over the world.
Well, still overseas, and thousands of students in Greece have rallied to protest the government's plan to introduce private universities. Students are concerned that the proposed reforms will devalue degrees from the country's public universities and will be exclusive to the wealthy. Universities are currently funded by the government and have been free for decades. The country says private universities would follow very strict academic standards.
Modern education will no longer be business as usual because the system is creating more agitation, anger, and provocation in the heart of youths all over the world.
Greek students have clashed with riot police during protests against a planned overhaul of the country's universities. The government believes the current system gives student groups too much influence over choosing directors and staff and even over exam grades. Critics say the reforms will damage academic disciplines less popular with employers.
Modern education will no longer be business as usual because the system is creating more agitation, anger, and provocation in the heart of youths all over the world.
ਅਲਗੋਮਾ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਕੈਂਪਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਹੱਡ ਚੀਨਵੀਂ ਠੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਰੋਸ ਪ੍ਰਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਕਥਿਤ ਇਲਜ਼ਾਮ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਸਨ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਖਾਸ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਫੇਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਰੋਸ ਪ੍ਰਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪੇਪਰ ਸ਼ਾਨਦਾਰ ਹੋਏ ਸਨ। ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਕਥਿਤ ਇਲਜ਼ਾਮ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਖਾਸ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਧੱਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਫੇਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ।
So it's our orientation day today, and like it's very bad to see children like this. Like we are not expecting this on our orientation day. I mean, we can see our future. Like we will be also standing like that. Like, and what is the future? Nothing. Like at least we don't expect these kind of things. Like it is a free country. This is Canada. I mean, we don't expect these kind of things after coming and paying such a filthy amount, and like we are standing over here. Like when we see students like this struggling a lot.
I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything.
الوثائق الإدارية كل شيء يهزوه.
هو كل ولاد ما بغاش يقرا وراه مالي ما بغاش يقرا ما بغاش الحمد لله جرب
الله يا ربي قاعدين ولاد
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
Elohim, mighty God lives in us. God does nothing without revealing the events to come, how it will come, and the consequences of the coming event to his elect or to his favorites, who are his intercessors, his mediators, or his representatives between the visible world and the invisible world. Remember, nothing out of God's control will happen on this earth or to his elects without divine revelation from the celestial corridor, through the mouth of his servants by grace who are living here on earth. According to God's master plan for his children, wise man Daniel, through his mentor, senior prophet T.B. Joshua of the blessed memory, has been given the grace by God Almighty to see the events of tomorrow from the celestial corridor. If you could remember, people of God, that on the 31st of December 2023, God used our brother, our son, and our friend in the Lord, wise man Daniel, to prophesy about the events of now regarding the educational system within Nigeria, Africa, and the entire world. Now we are seeing the smoke. The real fire is still coming. Students be warned. Teachers be warned. Lecturers be warned. That is why God said this before it starts to unfold. These were his words.
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
Number 9, the side effect of education. I remember in 50s, 60s, if you're a student, you know what it means. You value education, you're ready to die for this, ready to do this, ready to do that. But today, the reverse is the case. So that teachers will be careful in the class. There's a wind of spirit flowing in the lives of students. This 2024. So teachers, lecturers, be very careful. Be very careful this year. Be very careful. Modern education will no longer be business as usual because the system is creating more agitation, anger, and provocation in the heart of youths all over the world. I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything. At the end, this will affect many nations. Let us pray for our youth and the education system in our countries all over the world.
Developing now, dozens of students skipped classes today at Madison High School, part of an ongoing protest over a ban on cell phones.
Which, according to students, now includes pat-downs. Jason Miles is live outside of the school with more. And Jason, what's it like now as school dismissal is set to happen in about 30 minutes?
Yeah, pretty quiet right now. Buses and parents showing up. Dismissal at 4:30 here at Madison High School. But this morning, many kids showed up to school but didn't end up going inside. Relatively small compared to the entire student body, but this boycott was very vocal.
Well, this feels like a prison today.
Prompted by Madison High School's new cell phone ban.
They want to pat us down now.
We didn't see any pat downs, but could tell phones were being confiscated, part of a plan to cut down on disciplinary issues centered around cell phones, according to HISD.
One of the issues inside that they've decided to ignore
The school shared this graphic on social media last night, saying that each grade would enter through different doors as of this morning.
At every entrance, there was at least 4 different district officers. People we've never seen at our school before, has never been here.
Senior Tavion Scott is headed to Tennessee State University next year, but not before trying to change things at his soon-to-be alma mater.
My short-term goal as of right now is I want our principal to listen. Not listen. I want him to actually hear us out. Because you can listen, but if you're not hearing what we actually have to say, it makes no difference.
All of this started last week when the cell phone ban first came up. I'm told things were fairly relaxed until today when some parents once again joined in.
I work for myself. I took off today and said I'm going to come out here with my 2 daughters and the rest of these beautiful students because for the simple fact, somebody has to stand up to what they're doing to James Madison.
A school where conflict may continue to erupt
We was in that meeting for 2 days.
over cell phones. And we got a statement today from Houston ISD that mirrored a statement sent to us earlier in the week. It stood by the cell phone ban here at Madison, but says that cell phones are allowed to be kept in backpacks and used in certain cases at other schools. But again, not here at Madison, not at this time. You can read that full statement on KHOU.com. Reporting live from Madison High School on the far southwest side, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
Students being very vocal there. Thank you so much, Jason.
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything.
Let's turn attention to Plateau State, where the recent sack of all heads of tertiary institutions has continued to generate reactions. Locals hosting the Plateau State University community and students of the institution have staged a protest over the sack of the Vice-Chancellor. Funam Joshua, our correspondent in Plateau State, reports.
These are students and locals from the Plateau State University community in Boycott local government area of Plateau State. They are out in this number to protest the sack of the institution's vice-chancellor by the state government. The state governor, through the office of the secretary to the state government, recently announced the immediate dissolution of the governing council of the Plateau State University, Boycott. Although no reason was given for such action by the state government, the affected persons were advised to hand over all government property in their possession to the most senior officers in the various institutions. The protesters are out here carrying placards with different inscriptions to express their grievances about the development. They say the Vice-Chancellor has just spent 6 months in office against the 5-year tenure as stipulated by the National University Commission.
The entire members of the community, we are not happy with the action of the governor, and we are appealing so that the governor will reconsider the action he took so that he will return the VC to his office.
We cannot remove Vice Chancellor like this. He has to follow the prescribed law that established the university, the prescribed law that bring in the Vice Chancellor. The prescribed law prescribes that after 5 years, the Vice Chancellor will go.
He's a man that in any meeting, he will make sure that in any speech of his, he will remember the students. And then we believe that the government should bring him back for us so that we can continue and have a strong academic program.
The locals here, as well as the student community, are not happy with the development here in Plateau State University. Funam Joshua, TVC News, Boycott.
Students of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, have staged a peaceful protest over the hike in school fees and the policy of no school fees payment, no examination. Speaking with Rapid TV, some of the students decried the harsh policy by the management, stating that the current economic hardship is affecting them in different ways following the introduction of biometric by the school management.
The reason for this protest is our high increment of school fees. Our school fees have increased 3 times for a year now, and not all fingers are equal. Everybody cannot afford it. I have paid my school fees, but my colleagues cannot write the exam because they've not paid their school fees. This is not right. I cannot speak with my face open because of how the school management is. I will be picked or expelled from the school because I will show my face. Well, now, please, what we are pleading is, let them decrease our school fees or let us pay instrumentally. Either we pay instrumentally or let them decrease our school fees. Our 500 level students cannot write exam today because why? Some people don't have the money to pay the school fees. Imagine from the 1 to 500 level, we paid school fee for 4 years, and this is the last year of final year. What happens to clearance? So please, they are urging our VC, let him decrease our school fees or allow us to make instrumental payment.
How will I be a finalist? During my clearance, I'll pay everything, but yet they cancel my exam. After writing everything, they cancel my exam. Is that fair? After all my hard-earned reading, then I wake up around 2 a.m., read till 5 o'clock, went for the exam hall. I wrote on my exam. VC came inside the exam hall and cancelled everything. For what? Because I've not paid my school fees and I'm a final. I'm in my final year. This is the first time. This is the first time this is happening. I don't know why. This is the first time this is happening.
Regarding the protest, which resulted in the destruction and damaging of the school facilities, like the Students' Union Government Complex, burning of the abandoned school vehicles, attacking of banks in the school premises, the Dean Students Affairs, Professor Mark Nwosu, admitted that the protest was carried out by hoodlums and not the students who were about to sit for the examinations, stating that the students were expected to make their statutory payments before their examinations.
The point is that education is not free, isn't it? Because you had their facilities to be maintained. You want to write an exam, you know materials, the exam materials that need to be provided. You also, exam environment, even where you're staying to read, you need, there has to be power. All those things are really needed. And then to have all those things, you need money to procure them. We know the cost of fuel this time around. The cost of everything has gone up. So if the university does not have money, we don't know what else to do. So the issue is that exam education is not free all over the world. There's no way it is free. In most cases, before you go into the school, you must have paid all your charges before you go in. They won't even allow you to go into the school until you have paid. So that is the issue. But yeah, you come in and they will give you time to pay up and then take your exams. So that's the issue. We'll try to get them to know what was their anger, but they couldn't even listen to anybody. At least we wanted to address them, to tell them so that to calm the situation, and then they tell them what we've been planning to do. But they didn't want to listen. So we took it that probably, maybe kind of sabotage somewhere, somehow. And then some hoodlums eventually took over the whole thing. Because I'm not sure our students did this. People who've been looking for maybe to destroy the things in this university, in one way or the other. Those who don't like this university to exist, who are fighting against the university, maybe in one way or the other, they used some hoodlums to come and I'm not sure our students did this.
Visiting the school premises a few hours after the security agencies had controlled the situation, the mayor of Ikwana local government area, Osinachi Nwaka, sought a roundtable discussion with the school management and the student union government, promising to get in touch with the vice chancellor.
I've always known the student of Michael Oba to be very law-abiding and very good people. It's a surprise to me. That means there might be much more than we are hearing. But being the mayor of Ikwana, I just came to see for myself and to appeal for peace and calm. None of my territory, no quarter should be in violence. And I want to talk to the student world. Let there be peace, let there be calm. I'm assuring that within the next 48 hours, I'm going to meet the VC and make sure this is resolved. I also want to appeal through this Dean of Student Union that they should hold on the school exam for now and appease the student, because if you say no school fees and no exam, the economy is wonderful and everybody knows what is biting everybody. So we need to come to a compromise, a negotiation. It's not something that violence or force can solve. I want to appeal to all stakeholders involved. Within the next 48 hours, let's remain calm until the root cause is given. And I also want to appeal to any other person attacking the school. Please, this is government properties. No matter the situation at hand, you shouldn't use violence. To be joy is better than to be war, and things are very, very pretty expensive. But I'm assuring you people, once I leave here, I'll try and trace and get to the VC and also appeal to the management of the school to take it easy with the students. I'm also talking to all the students. I wish I can get the SUG president and the ESCOs to tell them to calm down. Nobody will tolerate violence, but at the same time, we need to understand each other. Let there be peace. I'm calling for peace and calmness.
The road leading to Akwa Ibom State was blocked while business activities were halted during the protest. However, the school management has issued a statement of indefinite suspension of activities in the school until further notice. Moses Ben, reporting for Rapid TV, Umahia.
With education, Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, has suspended its academic activities indefinitely. This followed a protest by some students over the university's policy of no fees, no exams. Inena Gabriel reports.
People are with their OMRs, they don't rush outside, Jesus. They don't scatter exam hall like this. They don't scatter exam hall. See OMR with people.
The protest by some students started from this hall, disrupting ongoing examinations. The protesters claimed they were denied the opportunity to take their first semester examinations since they cannot pay their school fees. The action, which was said to have culminated into violence. The police had to shoot into the air to disperse the protesting students. This forced the management of the university to suspend its academic activities.
I don't know which of the students told you that school fees is causing a problem, because school fees cannot be a problem. Let me put it that way. School fees cannot be a problem. Students were duly informed on time about the changes in the fees and the reasons why the fees were increased, if at all the increment is so large that they are feeling it is too high. But I don't think that any of them will claim that they were not aware. In a society like this, you definitely still see one or two people that will not meet up with what is expected of them. So I think this is just a case of a few people not meeting up with paying their school fees and all that.
The students were advised to vacate the premises for their safety. Meanwhile, authorities have been alerted to the situation and efforts are on top gear to restore peace on the campus.
I see a mighty protest that is warming up among the youths, especially in Africa, that will lead to a situation where angry youths will start beating up teachers and setting schools ablaze because they feel that they have wasted many years in schools without achieving anything.
For what?
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22.
So my humble advice to you, why did I show this? So that, because I decided to show it because most students are warming up in Africa. They are warming up seriously. And some of them have put the name of some teachers on their black book. Please, simple. Gone are those days when you can boldly correct a student. Correct a student, know what I mean? Correct a student. The generation when you can boldly correct a student, you know what I mean? Correct a student. Today, civilization has gone something else. So lecturers, be careful. Teachers, be careful. The kind of spirit that has possessed youths this time, students, only God will save us. Thank you.
Indeed, God does nothing without first revealing to his servants, as it was spoken by God through his servant Wise Man Daniel, so you can see it happening. And just as you have heard from Wise Man Daniel, let us keep praying for our educational systems. Keep praying for our students, our teachers, and our lecturers within Nigeria, Africa, and the entire world. Because in the spirit realm, things have fallen apart in the educational systems of the entire world. Remember the words of Wise Man Daniel, that more events will continue to unfold in relation to this prophecy as time passes by. May the Lord bless his words. Elohim, mighty God, lives in us. John 14:23.
Elohim, mighty God, lives in us. Thank you for choosing to watch ElohimGlobal.tv, a newborn baby but mighty in the spirit. Thank you for joining us in beaming the everlasting light of hope to the world. Therefore, to get connected to ElohimGlobal.tv in your home now, here are the important step-by-step guide on how to search for ElohimGlobal.tv on your free-to-air decoder. Step 1. Before anything else, make sure you have the free-to-air decoder. Step 2. Take your free-to-air decoder remote and click on Menu. Go to Satellite Settings to add or scan ElohimGlobal.tv channel. Step 3. Input the scan details below. Satellite, Intelsat 20. Transponder, EF28K. Tuning frequency, 12562 MHz. Polarization, H horizontal. Symbol rate, 30.000 MSPS. Modulation, DVB-S2, QPSK. FEC 5/6. Step 4. Scan and save the newly added channel, ElohimGlobal.tv. Now, watch and enjoy. Keep watching ElohimGlobal.tv, beaming the everlasting light of hope to the world.
It's worth a fight. Don't turn your back to reality. We can make this land a better world.
Keep watching Elohim Global TV, beaming the everlasting light of hope to the world.